So you finally dig your old PlayStation out of storage, and it either won't read discs or makes that laser noise. But instead of giving up, we're reviving this legend. Nothing extreme, just a few easy satisfying fixes that will take us back straight to the late 90s. These consoles are nearly 30 years old. A little dust, a tired laser, and a few cranky capacitors can make them act really weird. But most of it's fixable with basic tools and a calm hand. The usual PS1 issues come down to three things: dirty or weak laser, dry spindle motor, and aging capacitors. Sometimes even the lid sensor fails to press properly and the disc just sits there doing nothing. See this black switch? This is the lid sensor. If it doesn't click right, the disc won't spin. First, we need to pop the lid off. There are 6 screws underneath the PlayStation. You have to be gentle with these because the plastics are really old. You will find the laser assembly right in the center, and in order to clean it, we already had that covered in a previous video. Take this, dip, pop the trunk, get the shit out, rub, then we dry it. If your laser still struggles, you can get deeper with it. You have to carefully lift the lens assembly. There's a 3-pin connector and a ribbon cable. You'll see this tiny mirror and tracking rails underneath. Now it is time to crack open the laser assembly. This part always looks scarier than it is, but it's just a couple of screws and some very old plastic. You have to remove these 2 small screws holding the top plate. You don't want to mix these screws with the other PS1 screws because if you do, you are in for a fun puzzle later, but I'm not, so you want to keep that in mind. Lift the top piece gently. Inside, the lens carriage sits on 2 metal rails and a worm gear. This is the whole system that moves the laser back and forth while your game loads. Or tries to, anyway. To actually clean and loop this properly, we need the entire carriage out. And the good news is, it just slides off once we release it. First, push the carriage slowly toward the back. There's a little clip on the left rail that stops it from sliding out. You can nudge that clip open with your fingernail or small flathead. Once that's free, the carriage literally slides right off the rails. You don't need to really force it, but if it feels stuck, you have to check both sides. It should come out smoothly. A soft brush clears decades of dust. Gently scrub around the inner walls and the rails. You don't need to rush it. The goal is to lift the dirt, not scratch anything. You'll see the debris loosen up almost immediately. Once everything looks clean, you just have to wipe the area with some microfiber cloth to remove any leftover dust. Now that everything's cleaned, we've got to add a bit of grease to all the moving parts. Start with the rails first. Just a thin coat so the lens can travel smoothly without stuttering. Then add a touch of grease to the housing gears. These tiny gears handle all the movement, so keeping them lubricated makes a huge difference. And finally, do not forget to put some on the motor's moving points. Nothing crazy, just enough to reduce friction. Underneath the lens carriage, there's a tiny mirror. This guy reflects the laser beam up into the lens. If this mirror gets dusty or foggy, the console just gives up on life. Literally. Okay, this next part is what I call the only if everything else fails trick. On the side of the laser, there's a tiny potentiometer, a little screw that controls the laser's resistance. Lowering that resistance increases how much power the laser uses, which means it might read discs again, or you might outright just kill it. So before touching it, grab a multimeter and measure the original value. Write it down, take a picture because it is very important you need these numbers. Then lower the resistance just a tiny bit, and I mean it, a tiny bit. You have to do it in small steps. Sometimes that's enough to revive a weak laser, but again, this is the last resort. Only do this if the cleaning the rails and the lubrication didn't fix it. Alright, now that the lens is sorted, let's talk about something people forget, the capacitors on the PS1's power and video sections. If your PS1 turns out but randomly resets, freezes, or the video cuts out, this is where you should look. Check the power board for bulging or leaky caps. These little guys store charge and after 20 to 30 years, they dry out and start acting funky. If you're comfortable with soldering iron, you can replace them easily. At the very least, clean around the base to get rid of any corrosion or gunk forming over time. In my case, all the capacitors on this unit are actually in great shape. No swelling, no leaks, nothing suspicious. But hey, if you want to see a full PS1 recap and restoration in another video, let us know in the comments. We are down to give a dead console a second life, because why not? So now for the last part, we're gonna put everything back together and be hopeful that we did not create another problem. We're gonna put the screws back and test it out. Let's connect the power, hook it up to the CRT, and let's see what happens. Before we wrap this up, make sure to check out our Polish and Play series. It's where we fire up classic PS1 games and take you on a full nostalgia trip. I'll put a few episodes on the screen if you want to keep the retro vibes going. Thanks for hanging out with us in Citro. If you like this vibe, you better stick around because next time we will give the same treatment to a PS2 to see, well, can we make it work or make it worse?